Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man, and today we're going to do another light novel review. Now, it's been a rough couple days for me, and I apologize for the lighting, but if I open the curtains that I just installed into my room's temperature drops exponentially, and we only just got electricity back, and I would really hate to make my room uninhabitable again. So, yeah, now we're going to do I'm a Spider, So What today? Book 1, obviously, here you go. Okay, and this is written by Okinababa, who I don't know if it's a man or a woman or what, but Okinababa, that's the name of the author. I really like their name. It's kind of fun to say. Publisher-wise, is written by, or published by Yanon, or Yen Press, as you guys can see right there. I really dislike the fact that the cover printing went a little bit over the edge, but it happens with a lot of Yen Press titles, so whatever. I don't really care, but it is a little bit annoying. The demographic here is seinen. This is definitely a very... It's not really that gory, but like, it doesn't pull its punches with the fact that, you know, this is a monster having to be a monster, which is really cool. So, yeah, if you're kind of queasy and you really don't like spiders or, you know, animals doing what animals have to do, this might not be for you, but this is a seinen according to the manga adaptation. Now, the genres here are isekai, fantasy, and this is definitely a hard lit RPG title. Well, I shouldn't say that because that's not a real term, but this is very, you know, involved in the whole RPG leveling, adventuring, kind of like skill set type of thing. Like that very hardcore kind of game mechanic is definitely very present here, and this is why I would say this is a lit RPG and not a general game lit story. And adaptation wise, this has both a manga and an anime that's currently airing. I watched a little bit of it. I'm not really sure that I would say it's that great of an anime adaptation, but it is pretty fun. And the way they animate the what's it called, Kumoko the spider, like being like really expressive is really nice. I really like that because it functions really nicely to echo how expressive she is in the book. So, yeah. Now, the premise here is basically that this whole class of Japanese students get isekai'd through this, like, break in the space-time continuum thing into this magical world. And our main character, Kumoko, well, we don't actually know her name, but the spider's name, spider is Kumo and in Japanese, and Ko makes it a girl's name, so Kumoko, there you go. And she gets turned into a spider. We literally see her hatch from an egg and then live in a like nest of spiders for a little bit, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever read, but it was pretty fun. And now she must survive in this harsh world. Now, I went in with this really excited, but unsure that I would like it, mostly because I really hate spiders. They're like one of those things that, like, it makes no sense for me to be afraid of, but I'm like, ugh, fuck, spiders. You know what I mean? Like, spiders are just not something I want to deal with. Snakes, I love those things. Snakes are super cool. Lizards, really nice as well. But spiders, no, freak those, dude. I do not like spiders at all. In general, I don't really like insects just because they're creepy and it, like, bothers me, but I went in with this not really knowing if I would like it, and I actually really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really wonderful title, except for the first little beginning bit where she's like a little baby spider, and she's in a nest of spiders, and there's like a giant spider shows up, and it was disgusting, especially when they did an image of it. I just did not like it, but everything else was wonderful. I really enjoyed the whole story. But let's actually jump into the actual, you know, review of the book. So... the plotline is very good. I really enjoyed it. I really like how character-driven it is. Like, obviously, there's a situation that she can't escape, and she has to do what she has to do based on that situation. But it's very clearly like, hey, this girl wants to be able to do these things because she wants to figure out what the hell's going on. And so it doesn't feel like she's being pulled along, which is a problem in a lot of other, you know, books. So this is very character driven. Everything is because Kumoko wants to do it, which is wonderful. I really like that. I really enjoy when characters have a lot of autonomy. And yeah, I also really enjoyed the secondary storyline and the interludes. The story is written in such a way that it's kind of like Kumoko is our main character, and we follow her as she's figuring out this world. But given that it's a whole class of students getting isekai'd, we do see, you know, little bits of pieces of the other students. And the one we focus on is one of the male characters that was reborn as a duke's son or something like that. And Kumoko is figuring something out because she doesn't have anyone to explain it to her because she's a monster, and monsters are solitary in most cases. And she's trying to figure out something using logic and the divine voice thing, like, you know, the gamer voice, whatever it's called. And then it gets, you know, reaffirmed that she was right or that she was wrong when we get the secondary storyline with the Duke's son, because he's a human and he knows, you know, he can explain all the world tidbits because it's written down in books according to what humans have found. So it's really interesting. It's a really cool kind of like, okay, here's a bunch of action that kind of has world building woven into it, in the sense that like Kumoko's trying to figure out what's going on. And then here's a little bit of an exposition that also has a little bit of a plot line there to kind of cement what Kumoko was going for in a very easy to understand way. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really wonderful and a very kind of ingenious way to get over that exposition hurdle that you have in all fantasy stories. Because, you know, that's the worst part about fantasy. It's always the exposition and kind of having to sink the time into the book, both as an author and as a reader, to kind of understand the world before you can go into the adventure. And, you know, isekai actually allows you to basically get rid of this, because it's like part of the story that you have to go through the exposition. Whereas opposed to a lot of other novels, it's like part of the story, but a lot of times it just feels like you're going to read a 200-page textbook about this fake world and then you'll get into the story. So that's kind of interesting. And this even went further by doing that like interweaving thing, and I found it really amazing. Now, the real key plot points here of the story are getting isekai'd, oh my god, she's a spider, and then grinding and surviving, you know, and exploring this cave that she's in, which is called the Elro Labyrinth or something like that, I think. And, you know, she does this over and over again, rinse and repeat, grind a few levels, find a new monster she can't fight, grind a few levels, go back and fight that monster, you know, do this over and over again. She builds like 3 different homes. It's a very, you know, like grindy level focused storyline, but I actually really like that. And I really enjoy how it doesn't feel that like boring, which I don't play video games, and I really don't like playing video games because I hate grinding levels. It's just like a really annoying experience for me. And I know you don't have to do that in every video game, but the video games that I'm interested in are usually the ones that have grinding. But I really enjoy reading about it and kind of seeing that whole like repetitive, like, I don't know, just kind of like getting in the zone and just kind of going through the motions to kind of get to where you are. And I really enjoy that they made it even more, you know, enjoyable to read, because it was like, okay, she's doing this, but at the same time, she's processing everything and trying to learn. And she has such a like funny, expressive voice. She basically jumps off the page at you. And it's really enjoyable to read. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really nice. And I really enjoyed it because it was so fun to like listen to this girl tell you her life story, basically. And yeah, we got a few interesting fights with a giant snake, with a giant hive of bees, I guess, and with some crazy ass monkeys. Like, I don't know what they were, but I imagine the monkeys from that old Temple Run game. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like the game you played on your phone and you just kind of like swipe left and right, and you were running on this labyrinth thing, and then the monkeys would get you when you fell off or something. Kind of like that. I don't know what those were, but kind of remind me of that. And yeah, now characters wise, really fun. Like I said, Kumoko really jumps off the page at you, and basically she's the only interesting character. I mean, there's only like 4 characters introduced. There's Kumoko, and then there's 3 other students. One of them is a duke's son, one of them is a duke's daughter, and they're not related, they're like different. And then one of them was reincarnated as a dragon, which is really awesome. If I get reincarnated, I would like to be reincarnated as a dragon. You know, whoever's listening, please let that happen. But yeah, so we get those 3 characters, and they don't really do much. except, you know, help the exposition along. But, you know, there's some key elements that get, you know, explained through them. And then Kumoko's really the main character, and she's the one that, you know, we focus on. And she's so enjoyable to read. And really, you know, I always say light novels, the most important thing about light novels are usually the characters. And this, you know, proves that a character-driven story can be amazing as long as your character is interesting. And Kumoko definitely is. So, yeah, I really enjoyed her. Love her. The story is wonderful. The way she tells the story is really good. Just the way she's so sarcastic and acerbic and kind of like overly confident, but in such a like funny way. I don't know how to describe it. She's just really fun. All the other characters are really mid-tier though. They're just kind of like, yeah, they're a character and they're, you know, useful, but that's really it. There's nothing special to them. And I really hope that we get some other characters similar to Kumoko, at least in the sense that like they're important and they're fun to, you know, listen to. But yeah, that's it for the characters. Really, there's just Kumoko. Now, world building wise, nice. I really enjoyed it. It's really good. The huge emphasis on the leveling aspect that I was talking about earlier, that whole, you know, gaming mechanic of grinding levels, of gaining experience, of killing things in order to, you know, level up. And I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool because, so she's born, she doesn't have any skills, but she has 100 skill points, and one skill is worth 100 skill points. So she gets that skill, and then she's like, crap, this skill is useless. What do I do? And then she tries to do the things that, you know, a spider would naturally do. Then bang, she gets a bunch of skills. And then from there, she has to like logically find a way to kind of game the system basically in order to get the skills she needs. And it's really fun, really enjoyable. And sometimes it's ridiculous because it's like, okay, I'm just going to do the same thing 400 times. And at the end of that, I'll get a level. And that's what she does. And it's really cool just because not everything levels at the same rate. Not everything works the same way. And sometimes, I'm going to be honest, the time when things would level was a little bit too like convenient. But it kind of makes sense in the sense of the story. So overall, the game mechanic, the leveling mechanic more than anything was really awesome. The skill mechanic worked really nicely. And the kind of emphasis that she had to put on it was really cool. But she really has like no information whatsoever. And so it's kind of like weird because every time she makes a choice, it's like, damn, did I do the right one? And I think that's a really interesting kind of like parallel to real life. Because, you know, there's so many times in life where you have a choice and it could be the most asinine choice ever, but it could impact you in such an interesting and powerful way, and you just don't know until you look back on it. And so I thought it was really interesting in that kind of sense where like something kind of funky and weird kind of parallels something in real life that you could maybe learn from. And Kumoko basically just kind of goes like, okay, well, there's no reason to kind of like fret about it. I'm just going to choose what I think is best right now, and then I'll deal with it when I deal with it, which is maybe not the greatest way to deal with life, but it's something that I kind of generally agree with. I think that's an okay way to go about life. And it's kind of a way that like life kind of works. You just have to do what's best for you in the moment and then deal with the consequences of that later. And if it's positive, that's great. And if it's negative, well, you have to deal with that, right? So I thought it was really interesting in that sense. Now, besides that, the second perspective was really useful, like I said earlier, but that's basically it. The whole kind of world building aspect was all based on the leveling and the creatures and this labyrinth place that she lives in. And it was really cool, but it wasn't like, oh my God, holy crap, this is so intricate and detailed and, you know, Wheel of Time-esque. It wasn't like that. It was very like, you know, video game-esque, very like just enough information to be interesting without it being like predictable, I guess, which for me in a light novel is really wonderful. It's good enough. Light novels aren't necessarily supposed to tell like the most intricate, developed, deep philosophical literary stories, right? So it's okay if it doesn't really go all out. But in terms of a light novel, I thought the world building here was really wonderful. Now, art-wise, it's also equally wonderful. I really like how it looks. It's really cool. It kind of feels similar to Slime Isekai, Whereas Slime Isekai is a lot more sketchy and kind of like a little bit more abstract. This is a lot more solid and very like video game-esque. I really liked it. And I really enjoyed that a lot of the pages we get are actually, what was it called? Character cards, I guess? I don't know what they're called. Like, let me see if I can find one. Like this. It's a character card, basically. It tells you information about the monster, and it tells you, you know, a bit description and all of its stats and stuff. I thought that was really cool. But, you know, in general, the art is really nice. I really didn't like the spider one, but all the other ones are really nice, really cool. And I'm just excited to see where this story goes and where the art, you know, also goes and evolves with the story. Now, fan service wise, really there's none. I mean, I don't think there was any opportunity for there to be fan service, so there's not going to be any. This is, at least so far, the first volume, safe in that regard. But in general, the story is actually quite gruesome, so maybe it's not safe in general, like for young audiences. This is definitely like a 16 plus title, regardless of the fact that it doesn't have any fan service. Now, rating wise, I thought this was a solid 4 out of 5. It was really enjoyable. It was really cool. It did some stuff that I found really, really awesome, but there was nothing here that really blew me away. And that's kind of what's missing for me to give it a 5 now that my kind of rating system has refined a little bit. But, you know, stylistically, grammatically, you know, technically, in terms of writing, technical writing, I think everything is fine. It's just in terms of the creativity behind the story, there wasn't anything that really jumped out at me, especially because it is so similar to something like Slime Isekai, you know? So, solid 4 out of 5. Now, you know, I do want to note that it is very similar to Slime Isekai, at least in the idea, reincarnated as a kind of monster and then going through the motions of being a monster in order to kind of evolve and go and find out what the hell is going on. But it's very different in execution and especially in direction. What I mean by that is that, yeah, Slime Isekai and this are very similar in premise, but Slime Isekai is an OP character. It follows a guy that basically is building a Sims city, and this guy that's kind of like not really trying to change his life or be better or like grow in any way from how he was before. I mean, kind of, but not exactly. And he's kind of just being nice and doing the things that he's doing because they directly benefit him. And it kind of gets a little shady because he's dealing with people, not like with animals. So it, you know, it's a little bit more selfish, I guess. And well, actually, no, that's not true. They're both equally selfish, but they're very different in terms of, you know, stuff. Because Spider Isekai, yes, sure, it's about a girl turned into a monster, but she doesn't, she's basically just trying to survive. She doesn't want to build a city. She doesn't want to become a demon lord, nothing like that. She just wants to be able to survive, and she's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And she's just trying to live the best she can according to the rules that have been set to her by, you know, life, which is really what any of us could really do, right? So it is very different, and, you know, the perspective is different because this is a teenage girl. Slime Isekai is a grown-ass man. So, you know, there's a lot of differences, and I think it's not fair or genuine to kind of compare them and treat them as one-to-one equivalents because they really are not at all. But, yeah, that's it on that. Now, do I recommend this title? Yes, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful title. I think it's a very good one. This one really ranks up there. Maybe not as high as the stuff I mentioned in my best light novels of 2020, but it's, like, edging in there. So far, it is one of the better light novels that I've read besides Goblin Slayer, so good stuff there. Similar titles, like I said, Slime Isekai. You could even say stuff like Overlord or Dare Werewolf are similar in the sense that all these people got reincarnated into monsters or bad guys. So, you know, in that sense, they are similar, but all of them take it in a very different direction. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt and kind of figure out what would work for you. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys are safe and warm in your homes. And if you're a fellow Texan, I hope that you're doing better than we were doing last week. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching once again, and see you guys later.